He was pure evil, a walking nightmare, a predator who slithered through the shadows of Los Angeles, turning homes into slaughterhouses, dreams into despair, and the city's heartbeat into a pulse of raw terror. For over a year, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, held millions hostage to his depravity, slipping into bedrooms with the killer's grace, leaving bodies broken, blood-soaked, and defiled, his satanic symbols scrawled in crimson as a taunt to the living, a signature of his allegiance to darkness. 13 murders, countless assaults, a reign of horror so relentless, so unspeakably brutal. It seemed he'd outrun justice forever, his laughter echoing in the nightmares of a city that couldn't sleep. But every monster has a breaking point, a moment where their arrogance betrays them. And this was Richard Ramirez's final victim. The night his blood-soaked spree crashed into a wall of courage, chance, and retribution. How could one man unleash such chaos? His crimes so brazen, so inhuman, that they scarred America's psyche, rewriting the rules of fear. What fatal mistake turned the Night Stalker from an untouchable phantom into a hunted man, his reign of terror unraveling in a single fateful moment? And what dark forces within him, around him, forged a mind so twisted it saw murder as worship, fear as a sacrifice to a devil he claimed as his master? Stay with us, because today we're plunging into the black heart of the Night Stalker saga, unraveling the bone-chilling horror of his last victim, the desperate, citywide hunt that finally caged him, and the haunting truth of what created this monster, a truth that forces us to confront the shadows in our own world. Hit that like button, and let's dive into a true crime odyssey that will grip you, haunt you, and keep you glued to every word, every frame, until the very last second. This is the story of Richard Ramirez, and the night his darkness was dragged screaming into the light, a tale so chilling you'll check your locks twice before you sleep. Step into Los Angeles in the summer of 1985, a city that pulses with electric energy, a glittering mosaic of ambition, glamour, and raw possibility. Hollywood's marquees blaze with neon, casting their glow on starstruck dreamers, hustlers, and tourists snapping photos of the Walk of Fame. Palm trees sway under a relentless sun, their shadows stretching across sprawling suburbs like Monterey Park, Arcadia, San Gabriel, and Diamond Bar, where ranch-style homes nestle in quiet cul-de-sacs, their lawns manicured, their driveways lined with Pontiac Firebirds, Chevy Novas, and Ford Mustangs, the chrome glinting in the golden light. Families barbecue in backyards, the scent of grilled burgers and mesquite smoke mingling with the laughter of kids riding skateboards or playing catch, their sneakers scuffing the pavement. The air carries the thump of Van Halen's guitars, Madonna's synth beats, or Prince's funky riffs spilling from boomboxes and car radios, a soundtrack of rebellion, freedom, and the California dream, a dream that feels tangible here, where the Pacific shimmers on the horizon and anything seems possible. But as dusk settles, a suffocating dread creeps over L.A., transforming this vibrant metropolis into a fortress of fear, its pulse quickening with a panic that seeps into every corner, every heart. The summer is a furnace, a record-breaking heat wave that smothers the city, pushing temperatures past 100 degrees day after day, a swelter so oppressive it drives residents to sleep with fans whirring, windows cracked open to catch any hint of a breeze, their trust in the safety of their suburbs a fatal illusion. Unbeknownst to them, the darkness hides a predator, a phantom who thrives in their vulnerability, his eyes scanning for the faintest glow of an open window, the slightest creak of an unlocked door. He moves like a wraith, slipping through backyards, leaping 6-foot fences with the agility of a panther, his footsteps silent on dew-soaked grass, his breath steady, his intent lethal. Homes become traps, their occupants oblivious to the figure watching from the shadows, studying their routines, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His hunger for chaos as palpable as the heat that blankets the city. Los Angeles is gripped by a paranoia so thick it chokes. Blinds are drawn tight, doors double-bolted, windows sealed despite the suffocating heat. Guns stashed under pillows, tucked into nightstands, or leaned against bedroom walls, their cold steel of fragile comfort. Children are told to sleep with the lights on, their parents whispering prayers for dawn, their eyes darting to every shadow, every rustle outside. News reports scream of a faceless killer, his crimes dominating every channel, every newspaper, every conversation. Brutal murders, sexual assaults, homes defiled with pentagrams drawn in victims' blood or smeared in lipstick, a signature that whispers of the occult, of something unholy, something that doesn't belong in the world of the living. Los Angeles, once a beacon of freedom, light, and endless possibility, is now a city under siege, its residents prisoners of a terror known only as the Night Stalker, a name that sends shivers down spines, a boogeyman made flesh, his presence a poison that taints the air. His attacks are random, his victims spanning ages, races, neighborhoods, young couples in love, elderly widows living alone, families with children asleep in the next room. No one is safe, no pattern offers comfort, no lock seems strong enough to keep him out. The air is heavy with dread, the silence broken only by the wail of police sirens slicing through the night, the thrum of LAPD helicopters circling overhead, their spotlights sweeping empty streets, or the hushed, desperate conversations of neighbors clustered on porches, wondering who'll be next, their flashlights trembling in their hands. Entire communities form neighborhood watches, their members patrolling with bats and crowbars, their courage a fragile shield against an enemy they can't see, can't predict. Businesses sell out of deadbolts, window bars, and guard dogs. Hardware stores turning into arsenals as fear fuels a new economy. The Night Stalker isn't just a criminal, he's a plague, a force that rewrites the rules of safety, turning the familiar into the fatal, the home into a hunting ground, the night into a sentence. How could one man hold a city of millions hostage, his shadow stretching from the Hollywood Hills to the San Fernando Valley, his name a curse whispered in fear? What kind of evil could strike so unpredictably, leaving only carnage, questions, and the city drowning in its own terror, its residents wondering if they'll ever feel safe again? Richard Ramirez wasn't born a monster, but the seeds of his darkness were sown early, nurtured by a childhood steeped in violence, dysfunction, and a fascination with the forbidden that grew into a deadly obsession. Born February 29, 1960, in El Paso, Texas, Ricardo Leyva Munoz Ramirez was the youngest of 5 children in a working-class Mexican-American family, raised in a modest adobe home on Lido Street, where love was often overshadowed by turmoil. His father, Julian, a former Juarez policeman turned Santa Fe Railroad worker, was a volatile presence, his temper a storm that erupted in physical punishments, beating Richard and his siblings with belts or fists for minor infractions, leaving bruises on their bodies and fear in their hearts. His mother, Mercedes, a devout Catholic, worked grueling hours at a Tony Lama boot factory, her exhaustion and faith a faint light in a household darkened by Julian's rage, her prayers unable to shield her children from the chaos. Richard was a quiet, sensitive boy early on, but by age 10, he was showing signs of fracture, petty theft, truancy, a growing defiance that masked a deeper pain. A head injury at age 5, when a swing struck his skull, and another at 12, when he fell from a ladder, triggered epilepsy. His seizures adding to his sense of alienation, his brain possibly damaged by the trauma or the anticonvulsants he took irregularly. But it was his cousin, Miguel Mike Ramirez, a Green Beret Vietnam veteran, who became the dark architect of his descent, a figure who loomed larger than any other in Richard's young life. At 12, Richard idolized Miguel, charismatic, battle-hardened man who returned from Vietnam in 1970 with medals, scars, and a mind twisted by war. Miguel regaled Richard with tales of combat, showing him Polaroids of atrocities, beheaded Viet Cong, raped women, mutilated bodies, committed in the jungles, images that both horrified and fascinated the boy, planting seeds of violence as spectacle. Miguel taught him stealth, knife skills, and a twisted pride in brutality, glorifying killing as power, control as manhood, his lessons of perverse mentorship. One night in May 1973, 13-year-old Richard watched Miguel shoot his wife, Regina, in the face with a .38 revolver during an argument in their El Paso kitchen, her blood pooling on the linoleum, her body crumpling as Miguel stood unmoved, the act normalizing murder as a solution of performance. Miguel's arrest for manslaughter left Richard unmoored, his hero a killer, his world a place where violence was currency, where blood was proof of strength. By his teens, Richard was adrift, dropping out of Jefferson High School in 9th grade, stealing cars, burglarizing homes, and diving into drugs, smoking marijuana laced with PCP, snorting cocaine, experimenting with LSD, his mind warping under their chemical haze, his seizures amplifying his paranoia, his sense of being apart from the world. He found solace in heavy metal, Black Sabbath's ominous riffs, Judas Priest screams, AC/DC's Night Prowler, with its lyrics about creeping through homes, a blueprint for his later hunts. His obsession with Satanism grew, sparked by Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, which he read obsessively, seeing it as a path to transcendence, a rebellion against his mother's Catholicism, his father's control, a society he despised. Satanism wasn't a religion to him, but a philosophy of power, a justification for his darkest impulses, a way to cast himself as a force beyond good and evil. By 1983, at 23, he drifted to Los Angeles, a lanky figure with rotting teeth from neglect and meth, stringy black hair framing a gaunt, angular face, and eyes that burned with a manic, predatory intensity, as if he saw through flesh to the soul beneath. The city's underbelly, skid rows, flop houses reeking of urine, dive bars thick with cigarette smoke, pawn shops trading in stolen watches and rings, became his domain, his petty thefts and burglaries escalating to something far darker, far more sinister. He wasn't just a criminal. He was a predator, his hunger for chaos, control, and blood growing insatiable, his fantasies of dominance hardening into a mission, calling. He saw himself as chosen, a disciple of Satan, his crimes a ritual, his victims sacrifices to a darkness he worshipped, a devil he believed would reward his loyalty with immortality, infamy, power. How does a troubled kid, one of millions scarred by abuse and alienation, cross the line into such depravity? His life a slow-motion train wreck that ends in mass murder. What twisted alchemy of trauma, influence, drugs, and ideology forged the Night Stalker, a man who saw murder as worship, fear as his offering to a devil he claimed as kin? What did it mean that this monster wasn't born but made, his darkness a mirror of the forces, family, war culture, that shaped him, a warning of what lies dormant in the cracks of our world? In the spring of 1984, Richard Ramirez's darkness erupted, his crimes a crescendo of savagery that plunged Los Angeles into a nightmare from which it couldn't wake, a reign of terror that rewrote the city's sense of safety, its soul. His first known murder was June 28, 1984, 79-year-old Jenny Vinkow, found in her Glassell Park apartment, a low-income neighborhood of bungalows and chain-link fences. Ramirez broke in through a window, stabbed her repeatedly, slashing her throat so deeply she was nearly decapitated, her body mutilated in a frenzy of rage, blood pooling on her worn carpet. The scene a grotesque tableau of his emerging brutality, a declaration of his intent. From there, his attacks grew bolder, more depraved, a spree that defied logic, mercy, or reason. Each crime a new verse in his hymn of horror, each victim a note in his symphony of chaos. He struck at night, slipping into homes through unlocked windows, pried sliding glass doors, or jimmied locks with a screwdriver. His tools terrifyingly simple: a hunting knife with a 6-inch blade, a .22 caliber handgun, a .25 caliber pistol, a tire iron, sometimes just his bare hands. His strength fueled by a manic fury, his speed uncanny, as if the darkness itself propelled him. He killed indiscriminately, men, women, children, the elderly, shooting husbands in the head as they slept, stabbing wives in their beds, bludgeoning grandparents with hammers, his violence a whirlwind that spared no one, respected no boundary. His crime scenes were nightmares, straight from a horror film. Blood-soaked bedrooms, bodies sprawled in grotesque poses, mattresses saturated with crimson, walls defaced with pentagrams scrawled in victims' blood or smeared in red lipstick, a signature that screamed Satanism, amplifying the city's terror to a fever pitch, whispering of rituals of evil unbound. In March 1985, he escalated, killing 34-year-old Dale Okazaki in Rosemead, shooting her in the kitchen as she ducked for cover, her roommate Maria Hernandez narrowly escaping, her survival a defiance he couldn't predict. Hours later, he murdered 30-year-old Salian Veronica Yu in Monterey Park, dragging her from her car on a busy street, shooting her twice, his audacity stunning witnesses who couldn't stop him. In April, he killed 64-year-old Vincent Zazera and his wife Maxine, 44, in Whittier, stabbing them, mutilating Maxine's body, carving out her eyes as a trophy, leaving them on their living room floor, their home a shrine to his sadism. In May, he attacked 83-year-old Mabel Bell and her 81-year-old sister Florence Lang in Monrovia, beating them with a hammer, raping Florence, shocking her with an electrical cord, drawing satanic symbols and lipstick on their walls, leaving them for dead, their moans haunting neighbors who found them days later. By summer, his body count climbed. William and Lillian Doy in Monterey Park, beaten and stabbed. Max and Lella Needing in Arcadia, hacked with a machete. Joyce Nelson, 61, in Monterey Park, bludgeoned with a lamp. Ilya Zabawoff, 35, and his wife Sakina, 27, in Diamond Bar, shot and assaulted, their children spared but traumatized. He raped survivors, forcing them to swear allegiance to Satan, his voice a chilling blend of menace and glee, his laughter a sound that burned into their souls, a wound that never healed. Tell them the Night Stalker was here. Edis, his words a taunt to police, a challenge to a city that couldn't stop him, his arrogance a shield he wore like armor. The media frenzy sparked by a Los Angeles Herald-Examiner reporter dubbed him the Night Stalker in July 1985, a name that stuck, crystallizing the city's fear into a single, dreaded phrase, fueling panic as residents armed themselves with shotguns, revolvers, and baseball bats, formed neighborhood watches, and prayed for dawn to break the spell of terror. Police scrambled, forming a task force of over 200 officers led by LAPD's Frank Salerno and Sheriff Gil Carrillo, but early missteps plagued them. Missed connections between jurisdictions, failure to link early burglaries to murders, underestimating his randomness, letting him slip through their nets, his crimes a puzzle with no edges, no center. His lack of a clear pattern was his greatest weapon. No predictable target, no consistent weapon, no geographic limit, just a city drowning in dread, its streets empty after dark, its people haunted by the question of who'd be next, their lives on hold, their trust and safety shattered. He called survivors months later, taunting them with whispers. "I'm still out here watching." His voice a ghost that refused to fade, a reminder that he could strike again, that nowhere was safe. Why did Ramirez revel in such chaos? His crimes a performance, a ritual played out for an audience of one, himself, or the darkness he served. How could police, with helicopters, canine units, and task forces, fail to stop a killer who left clues at every scene? Blood, prints, stolen cars, bite marks. His arrogance a beacon they couldn't follow. What drove him to escalate? Each murder more savage, each assault a deeper descent into a hell of his own making, his hunger for blood of fire that consumed everything in its path. August 8th, 1985, marked the Night Stalker's fatal mistake, a crime that would unravel his reign of terror and ignite a city's fury, turning Los Angeles from prey to predator in a single, pivotal night. In Mission Viejo, a quiet Orange County suburb 50 miles south of L.A., Ramirez targeted the home of Bill Carnes, 29, and his fiancée, Inez Erickson, 27, a young couple sleeping in their modest ranch house on Via Zaragoza, their lives filled with plans for a future together, unaware that death was watching from the shadows. Around 2 a.m., Ramirez slipped through an open kitchen window, its screen quietly removed, his .25 caliber handgun gleaming in the moonlight, his movements silent, practiced, predatory, as if the night itself guided his steps. He crept into their bedroom, the hum of a box fan masking his approach, the room bathed in the soft glow of a streetlight filtering through curtains. Without hesitation, he fired 3 shots into Carnes's head, the blast shattering the silence, blood pooling on the pillow as Carnes collapsed, his body still, left for dead in an instant. Turning to Erickson, Ramirez bound her wrists with neckties from their closet, his rancid breath, sour with decay and drugs, hot against her face as he raped her, beat her, and laughed, his eyes wild with sadistic glee, his voice a snarl that cut through her soul. "You know who I am, don't you?" he taunted. "I'm the Night Stalker. Swear to Satan you won't scream, or I'll kill you like him." But Erickson's defiance burned through her terror, her survival instinct of fire that refused to be snuffed out. She memorized every detail, his gaunt, hollow-cheeked face, his rotting teeth, his stringy black hair matted with sweat, his aviator sunglasses left carelessly on the dresser, his black Adidas sneakers with their distinctive 3-stripe tread, his stench of sweat, cigarettes, and something fouler, like death itself. Ramirez ransacked the house, stealing $400 in cash, a diamond engagement ring, a VCR, and their orange 1976 Toyota station wagon, speeding off into the night, unaware he'd left a trail that would lead straight to his downfall, his arrogance blinding him to the net tightening around him. Carnes, miraculously alive despite 3 bullets lodged in his skull, stirred in agony, crawling to a neighbor's house, blood streaming down his face, his survival a defiance of Ramirez's intent, a miracle that would cost him years of recovery but save countless lives. Erickson, battered but unbroken, gave police a vivid description. 6 feet tall, thin, Hispanic, early 20s, curly hair, a stench of decay, a portrait so precise it burned into their files, a face they could finally hunt. A critical clue emerged, a partial fingerprint lifted from the stolen Toyota, abandoned in L.A.'s Rampart District days later, matched to Richard Ramirez through AFIS, California's new automated fingerprint identification system, a technology in its infancy but sharp enough to pierce his anonymity, linking him to a 1984 theft arrest. Another breakthrough came from 13-year-old James Romero III, a Mission Viejo neighbor who'd seen Ramirez casing the neighborhood days earlier, noting the orange Toyota's partial license plate, 482, and a suspicious man loitering near the Carnes' home, his lanky frame and shifty eyes unforgettable. Romero's tip, given to police hours after the attack, linked the car to the crime, its interior yielding more prints, a stolen TV found in an L.A. pawn shop adding another thread to the net. Detectives traced Ramirez's past, burglaries, drug arrests, a history of drifting between L.A., San Francisco, and El Paso, building a profile of a predator who'd been hiding in plain sight. On August 28th, after confirming the fingerprint match, police released Ramirez's mugshot, taken after his 1984 arrest, to every news outlet in California. His face, a hollow-cheeked, wild-eyed glare under a mop of dark hair plastered across TVs, newspapers, billboards, and bus stops. His name now a curse, his anonymity shattered like glass. The Night Stalker was no longer a ghost, a myth, a shadow. He was Richard Ramirez, a 25-year-old drifter, target, and Los Angeles was ready to fight back, its fear alchemized into fury. How did one night, one couple's resilience, turn the hunter into the hunted, their courage the spark that ignited a city's rebellion against terror? What made this crime different? The crack in Ramirez's armor that let justice flood in, transforming his city's dread into a weapon, its people into warriors. And what did it mean that a 13-year-old boy and a wounded woman held the keys to ending a nightmare that had gripped millions? By August 30th, 1985, Richard Ramirez was a marked man, his face a public enemy broadcast across Los Angeles, his reign of terror teetering on the edge of collapse, his invincibility a lie exposed by a city that refused to cower any longer. Unaware of his infamy, Ramirez returned to L.A. after a brief trip to Tucson, Arizona, stepping off a Greyhound bus at the downtown terminal, his black AC cap pulled low, his aviator sunglasses shielding eyes that still burned with defiance. He wandered into a liquor store, grabbing a soda, oblivious to his mugshot staring back from every newspaper on the rack, his face on TV screens and shop windows, his name on the lips of a city that knew him as the devil. In East L.A.'s gritty Hubbard Street neighborhood, a working-class enclave of stucco homes and chain-link fences, Ramirez, strung out on cocaine and desperation, tried to steal a 1966 Ford Mustang from 53-year-old Faustino Pinion, a gardener working on his car. Pinion fought back, grappling with Ramirez, the car lurching into a fence as they struggled, Pinion's shouts drawing neighbors' attention. Ramirez fled, his heart pounding, his breath ragged, only to attempt another carjacking 2 blocks away, targeting a 1975 Toyota driven by 23-year-old Angelina de la Torre. Her husband, Manuel, a 37-year-old mechanic, saw the commotion from their driveway and gave chase, wielding a metal pipe, his fury a match for Ramirez's desperation, his shouts of SL, LSSNO. It's him, the killer, echoing through the streets. A crowd formed, neighbors, shopkeepers, teenagers, grandparents, ordinary people fed up with living in fear, recognizing the Night Stalker from news reports, their shouts a chorus of rage. It's him, the Night Stalker. Get him. They pursued him through dusty alleys, over chain-link fences, across backyards thick with laundry lines, a mob of dozens swelling with every block, their flashlights, brooms, and fists a tidal wave of retribution, their voices a roar that shook the morning air. Jose Burgoyne, a 29-year-old father, tackled Ramirez near Arizona Street, joined by 25-year-old Julio Calderon and others who beat him with pipes, bats, and bare hands, their blows a release of a city's pent-up terror, each strike a reclaiming of power stolen by his crimes. Ramirez, bloodied and dazed, curled into a ball on the pavement, his black shirt torn, his face swollen, begging for mercy in a voice that cracked with fear. Poor favor, No me mates. A pathetic shadow of the predator who'd laughed at his victim's pleas. Police arrived just in time. Officers from LAPD's Hollenbeck Division, pulling him from a mob of over 50 baying for his life, cuffing him as blood streamed from his scalp. His aviator sunglasses shattered on the ground, his arrogance crumbling like ash. The scene was cinematic, sweat-soaked citizens panting from the chase, a battered killer slumped in defeat, squad cars flashing red and blue, news helicopters buzzing overhead, their cameras capturing a city's triumph, a moment of raw, collective justice. Hundreds gathered, cheering as Ramirez was shoved into a cruiser, some spitting, others weeping, their voices a cacophony of relief, rage, and redemption. Ramirez, his face bruised, smirked faintly as the door slammed, his defiance a flicker in a broken man, his eyes still glinting with a hint of the monster within. Detectives Salerno and Carrillo, who'd hunted him for months, arrived at the scene, their exhaustion giving way to disbelief. A killer who'd eluded 200 officers, helicopters, and dogs, brought down by a neighborhood's fury, a testament to a city pushed past its breaking point. How did ordinary people, mechanics, mothers, kids, elders, do what a massive task force couldn't, turning predator into prey in a single, chaotic, glorious moment? What drove them to risk their lives, to chase a killer through the streets? Their courage a spark that ended a nightmare that had gripped a city for over a year. What did it mean that Los Angeles, broken by fear, rose as one? Its rage the Night Stalker's undoing, its people the true hunters in a story that could have ended in more blood. The trial of Richard Ramirez, beginning July 22, 1988, in Los Angeles Superior Court, was a spectacle of evil, a courtroom drama that captivated America and laid bare the depths of his depravity, a theater where justice clashed with a monster who refused to bow. Facing 43 charges, including 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, 14 burglaries, and assorted robberies, Ramirez turned the proceedings into a twisted performance, his presence a chilling defiance of the law, of morality, of humanity itself. He swaggered into the packed courtroom, his lanky 6-foot frame draped in black, his hair slicked back, flashing a pentagram tattooed on his palm to reporters, shouting "Hail Satan!" With a grin that bared his rotting teeth, his eyes glinting with a manic glee that silenced the room. He doodled satanic symbols, pentagrams, 666, inverted crosses, on legal pads, smirked at jurors, and winked at groupies, a gallery of women who filled the seats, sending him love letters, nude photos, even marriage proposals, drawn to his dark charisma like moths to a flame, their presence a grotesque sideshow that sickened victims' families. His behavior alienated jurors, his defense team, public defenders Daniel and Arturo Hernandez, plagued by inexperience, infighting, and Ramirez's refusal to cooperate, outmatched by a prosecution led by Deputy Day Phil Halpin, a methodical veteran who presented a mountain of evidence, each piece a nail in Ramirez's coffin. Fingerprints lifted from the Karn-stolen Toyota, a Monrovia crime scene, and a stolen TV matched Ramirez's 1984 arrest record. Ballistics linked his .22 and .25 caliber handguns to bullets from 6 murders, their rifling marks forensic signature. Stolen jewelry, a diamond ring, gold chains, a pearl necklace, traced to his sister Rosa's home in El Paso tied him to burglaries. Survivor testimonies pierced the room with their pain. Inez Erickson recounted her assault, her voice steady as she described Ramirez's laughter, his stench, her survival a defiance of his intent to kill. Maria Hernandez identified him as Dale Okazaki's killer, her memory unshaken by his stare, her courage a beacon for others. Virginia Peterson, shot in Northridge, described his evil eyes, Her husband Anton's wounds a testament to their fight to live. Forensic experts matched his shoe prints, black Adidas sneakers with a unique three-striped sole, to 7 crime scenes. His dental records confirming bite marks on Lillian Doy's arm and Maxine Zazera's breast, a rare odontological link. The prosecution painted Ramirez as a predator without remorse, his crimes a deliberate choice, not a product of insanity. Despite defense claims of brain damage from epilepsy, drug abuse, or a 1972 head injury, claims dismissed by experts who found no psychosis, only psychopathy. Ramirez's antics, disrupting proceedings, firing his first attorney, refusing to testify, backfired. His silence on the stand a void where remorse should have been. His courtroom theatrics a confession of guilt in the eyes of jurors. On September 20th, 1989, after 56 days of testimony, 165 witnesses, and 43,000 pages of evidence, the jury convicted him on all counts, their verdict a hammer blow to his arrogance, the courtroom erupting in sobs from victims' families, a release of years of pain. On November 7th, Judge Michael Tynan sentenced him to death, ordering 19 death penalties, 1 for each murder and major felony, to be served on San Quentin's death row. His words solemn: "You have shown yourself to be beyond rehabilitation, a creature of evil." Ramirez's response was chilling, delivered in a low, defiant drawl. "Big deal. Death always went with the territory. I'll see you in Disneyland." His smirk a final taunt, his contempt for life, for justice, a blade that cut deep. Victims' families wept, some relieved to see closure, others haunted by his lack of remorse, his refusal to acknowledge their pain, their loss, their humanity. Outside, crowds cheered, holding signs, "Burn, Ramirez, burn." Their voices a catharsis for a city scarred by his terror. Ramirez lingered on death row for 24 years, marrying one of his groupies, 41-year-old Doreen Leoie. In 1996, a freelance editor who called him kind and gentle, a delusion that baffled psychologists. He died of B-cell lymphoma on June 7, 2013, at 53, in a Marin General Hospital bed, never expressing regret, his silence a final act of defiance, his death a quiet end to a life of loud horror. Why did Ramirez embrace his evil, turning even his trial into a stage for his darkness, a performance that mocked the pain he caused? How did survivors find the strength to face him, their trauma laid bare in a courtroom packed with his fans, their voices a defiance of his attempt to erase them? What is his lack of remorse, his gleeful allegiance to evil? Tell us about a mind that chose cruelty as its creed, a soul that saw no value in redemption. Richard Ramirez was a perfect storm of pathology, a case study in the making of a monster whose mind was as terrifying as his crimes, a labyrinth of impulses, obsessions, and voids where humanity should have been. Psychologists, including FBI profilers like John Douglas, point to a toxic brew of factors: childhood trauma from his father's physical abuse, which taught him violence as power, submission as weakness; exposure to Cousin Miguel's atrocities at age 12, which normalized rape and murder as spectacle, imprinting violence as a path to glory; and a brain possibly damaged by epilepsy, diagnosed in his teens, with grand mal seizures that may have altered his frontal lobe, impairing impulse control, compounded by heavy drug use, PCP, cocaine, methamphetamine, LSD, that warped his perception, fueling paranoia, aggression, and a detachment from reality. His obsession with Satanism, sparked by Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible and heavy metal's dark imagery, Black Sabbath, Slayer, ACC, wasn't a devout belief but a performative ideology, a prop to amplify his power, to justify his sadism, to cast himself as a cosmic force, a warrior for darkness rather than a mere criminal. He fit the FBI's profile of a disorganized serial killer, impulsive, chaotic, leaving messy crime scenes with blood, prints, and weapons, yet showed organized traits in his stalking, his ability to case homes for days, his evasion of police for over a year, blending the erratic with the calculated, a hybrid predator who defied easy categorization. His lack of empathy was profound, a hallmark of psychopathy. His victims mere objects for his rage, their suffering fuel for his thrill, their lives irrelevant except as canvases for his cruelty. His sexual sadism, paired with necrophilic tendencies, mutilating bodies post-mortem, removing Maxines as their eyes, biting victims, marked him as a rare, extreme predator. His pleasure derived not just from killing, but from defiling, controlling, destroying every trace of his victims' humanity, their dignity. His taunts, swear to Satan, "I'm the Night Stalker," revealed a need for recognition, a desire to be feared, to transcend mortality through infamy. His crimes a stage where he played God and devil in one. Unlike other serial killers who hid their darkness, Ted Bundy's charm, John Wayne Gacy's clown persona, Ramirez flaunted it. His pentagrams, courtroom antics, and Hail Satan outbursts a declaration of allegiance to evil, a rejection of redemption, of society, of any moral tether. His pathology raises haunting questions. Why do some, like Ramirez, cross into such darkness, while others with similar traumas, abuse, drugs, alienation, don't? Their pain turning inward rather than outward? What in his mind turned murder into a ritual, fear into worship, his crimes a twisted sacrament to a devil he may not even have believed in, but whose name gave him power? How do we reconcile his humanity, his laughter with friends, his love for metal music, his tender letters to groupies, with the inhumanity of his acts, a paradox that makes him both monster and mirror, a reflection of the forces that can break a mind to soul? Was Ramirez a product of his past, trauma, drugs, Miguel's influence, or something else, a void that chose evil, a darkness that existed before the world touched him? The Night Stalker case left deep, jagged scars on Los Angeles, reshaping how America understands, hunts, and fears serial killers. Its ripples felt decades later in law enforcement, culture, and the collective psyche. It spurred advances in forensic science. California's AFIS fingerprint system, introduced in 1985, was pivotal in identifying Ramirez, its database linking his prints to crime scenes, a leap from manual card files that set a standard for national systems like IAFI's. Ballistics tests, matching his .22 and .25 caliber guns to bullets from 6 murders, refined cross-jurisdictional evidence sharing, ensuring no killer could hide in bureaucratic silos. Odontology, matching Ramirez's dental impressions to bite marks, became a courtroom staple used in later cases like Ted Bundy's conviction. The case exposed police missteps, early failures to connect burglaries to murders, rivalries between L.A. County Sheriff's Department and LAPD, underestimating his randomness, prompting reforms in task force coordination, now a model for multi-agency hunts like the Grim Sleeper case in 2010. The FBI's Behavioral Science Unit, led by profilers like Robert Ressler, refined its techniques, using Ramirez's sadism, randomness, and occult imagery to better predict disorganized killers, aiding captures like Jeffrey Dahmer in 1991 and Joel Rifkin in 1993. The case fueled a cultural obsession with serial killers, birthing a true crime boom. Books like Philip Carlo's The Night Stalker, films like Manhunt, Search for the Night Stalker, and Netflix's 2021 docuseries Night Stalker, The Hunt for a Serial Killer, which centered survivors' voices, their resilience a counterpoint to Ramirez's evil. His pentagram imagery cemented Satanism's link to crime in the public mind, igniting the 1980s Satanic panic, a moral crusade that wrongly targeted metal fans, Dungeons and Dragons players, and daycares, but reflected real fears of evil unbound, fears Ramirez embodied. His crimes changed LA's behavior. Window bars became standard. Home security systems like ADT saw sales skyrocket. Neighborhoods grew vigilant. Their trust in open windows in each other shattered. Police departments hired more Spanish-speaking officers to connect with communities like East LA, whose residents ended Ramirez's spree, a nod to their heroism. Decades later, his name still evokes dread, a synonym for terror, a reminder that evil can wear a human face, strike without warning, and leave wounds that never fully heal. His influence lingers in pop culture. Marilyn Manson cited him as inspiration. True crime podcasts like My Favorite Murder dissect his psyche. Horror films borrow his nocturnal menace. Yet his victims' stories, their courage, remain the true legacy. A call to remember the human cost of his darkness, to honor survivors like Inez Erickson, Maria Hernandez, and the families of Jenny Vincao, Dale Okazaki, and Maxine Zezera. The Night Stalker case forced America to confront its vulnerability, to strengthen its defenses, to ask what makes a monster and how to stop one before the body count climbs. How did one man's spree rewrite the rules of criminology, turning fear into a catalyst for progress, for resilience, for change? Why does Ramirez's shadow endure? A warning of what hides in the corners of our cities, our minds, our history. What is our fascination with him, our books, our shows, our endless debates, say about our own need to confront the abyss, to understand the evil that walks among us, to reclaim the light from the darkness he left behind? Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was a living nightmare, a predator who turned Los Angeles into a city of locked doors, sleepless nights, and whispered prayers. His crimes a hymn to chaos, his victims a testament to the unbreakable human spirit. His final victim, Bill Carnes and Inez Erickson, marked the end of his terror, a moment when courage, chance, and the city's collective rage collided to cage a monster who thought he was untouchable, a devil who believed he'd dance forever in the dark. But his story leaves us with questions that linger like smoke, curling around our thoughts, refusing to fade. What creates a creature like Ramirez, a man who chose evil as his legacy, who saw bloodshed as his art, fear as his crown? How many more like him lurk in the shadows, their faces as ordinary as the neighbor mowing his lawn, their darkness waiting for the night to cloak their deeds? What is our obsession with his story, our books, our documentaries, our endless fascination with his twisted mind? Reveal about our own hearts, our need to peer into the void, to wrestle with the monsters within and without. The Night Stalker is gone, his body reduced to ash, his name a curse. But his victims, Jenny Vincao, Dale Okazaki, Mabel Bell, Vincent Zezera, and so many others, deserve to be remembered not as his trophies, but as lives stolen, as voices that echo in the fight for justice, as lights that refuse to be extinguished. Their survivors, their families, their city, showed us what resilience looks like, what courage can do when fear threatens to win. So drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm reading every single one to see what you make of this descent into darkness, this clash of evil and endurance. Was Ramirez a product of his past, trauma, drugs, a cousin's blood-soaked lessons, or something else? A void that chose evil, a darkness older than his story? Could a city rise like LA did again, turning fear into fury, ordinary people into heroes? If this dive into the Night Stalker's horrors kept you hooked, heart pounding, mind racing with questions, then smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell for more true crime deep dives that peel back the shadows, exposing the blackest corners of humanity. Stories that challenge us to face the abyss and find the light within it. Check out our videos on the Golden State Killer, Ted Bundy, the Zodiac Mystery, or Jeffrey Dahmer for more chilling tales that grip you, shake you, and won't let go. Share this with your true crime crew. Spark a debate. Get the conversation going. Because Ramirez's story isn't just history. It's a warning, a mirror, a call to stay vigilant in a world where evil never sleeps, where the next Night Stalker might already be watching. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and stay safe. I'll see you in the next one, where we chase another monster into the light, another truth waiting to be told, another shadow begging to be slain.